Black Ops 6 is now 1 month old if you count it from when New Zealand started playing the game. It's been a full month, and so a few things are in order today. First of all, we need to take a quick look back and go, hold on, is this game actually doing well, or is it not doing as well as it should be given all the hype there is for it on YouTube and stuff like that? So that's one thing I want to address today. There's also a new Citadel De Mo screenshot, and I've also got some kind of sneaky little announcement plan-y type things that I want to cover with you guys that I think you might find quite interesting, and I want to get your opinions on as well. So we're 1 month in, and something that I think could be quite interesting to you guys is to hear a little bit about, from my perspective in the YouTube content creation space, how this game is shaping up compared to previous Call of Duty titles. So I've been making Call of Duty Zombies content since it started, and that means that I've got quite reliable data every single year of knowing, oh, yeah, this game performed this well across the content space. Like, not just on my channel, but if I kind of add up all the channels in the scene and I get an overall holistic view of how it's performing on a given year, I can then compare that to future years to be like, oh yeah, it looks like the content space is bigger this year. Does that correlate to player numbers? Well, it's not a one-to-one correlation. It's not an absolutely rigidly locked in step kind of pattern, but there is a loose correlation there, absolutely. If there's more people playing the game, there's more people to watch videos on the game. So what is my kind of overall analysis of this game so far? Well, if we look back at the biggest previous month in my channel history for viewership on the channel, guess which game that came from? I'll give you a moment to think about this. Which month in Zombies history was the biggest month for MrRoflWaffles? And I think the answer is going to surprise you guys a little bit, because it's not Der Eisendrache, which I think a lot of you guys are guessing right now. And it's also not Shadows of Evil, which I also think a lot of you guys might be guessing right now. It's not BO3 launch, and it's not DLC 1 launch for Black Ops 3. It's actually Black Ops 4 launch, which kind of makes sense because we had 4 maps on launch, right? But at the same time, that game was mixed in its reception, let's say. So that being the sort of outperformer here might be a little bit of a surprise, but it was an outperformer in a really, really big way. I hit 33 million views in 1 month for Black Ops 4. And that's a number that, looking back now, it is insane, especially because shorts weren't a thing then. There was no TikTok viewership adding to that. It was literally just videos on YouTube that somehow all added up to 33 million views. I mean, crazy. And so the question is, with all the content I've been making this month, which has been a lot of content, we've posted more videos in 1 month than I've ever posted before in my channel history ever. Okay, so with all that content going out, has this been a bigger month than Black Ops 4? And it has, and it hasn't. So from the 23rd of October through to the 22nd of November, that month, okay, we have achieved, and this is a crazy number that I can't even really wrap my head around, 60 million views. By far the most I've ever achieved on my channel. But then if we break that stat down a little bit, there's a big chunk of those that are from shorts, right? Because shorts are a thing now and they weren't 5 years ago. And so in terms of long form views, we're kind of neck and neck with Black Ops 4, or maybe very slightly below it, but we're in a similar ballpark at least. And that in itself is insane, seeing as we have 2 fewer maps. Like, you'd always expect an Easter egg guide to get a lot of views, for example, and with 2 fewer maps, that means 2 fewer Easter egg guides, sort of. I mean, Classified wasn't quite an Easter egg, but you know what I mean. But regardless, that is crazy. That is crazy performance from Black Ops 6 overall. Like, the fact that this game is a modern zombies game, right? It's Warzone Zombies. It's got a lot of things that the old school community have problems with, and yet it's hitting those sorts of numbers. That's a really good sign for the health of the zombies mode. Now, I want to be clear here that obviously just measuring it by my channel performance is not the best statistic in the world, because my channel might grow or shrink over time, right? So there's variation in the data. Don't get me wrong. I recognize that. I understand that. But I think it's still an interesting anecdotal number. And I have to say as well, like, the fact that we've been able to hit 60 mil this month is it's something I'm so grateful for. Like, I will never stop yapping about how just incredible your support has been over these last several weeks. And yes, I've been hardly leaving the house. And yes, my life has been consumed by content creation, but I've been loving every single minute of it, because I've known that you guys are on the other end of those videos receiving that content, and you're giving me so much positive reinforcement, so much positive feedback, so much support, so much love. And like, I feel so alive doing this right now. It feels amazing. And that dovetails with the fact that the game is good. Like, I would not be having this much fun if the game sucked by any means. So it's really nice to be in this sort of position, having this much fun, making the content, feeling really creative with it as well, and then simultaneously being able to really enjoy and have fun with the game. Like, that is a match made in heaven, right? So then I guess the next question is, how does it stack up compared to Cold War, for example? And Cold War's an interesting one because at the time, I didn't think that everyone being at home for lockdown and stuff was gonna make that big a difference to the viewership on that game, but I think it really did. At the time, I wasn't taking into account the fact that people were putting streams on their second monitors while they were doing stuff working from home. They were just playing more video games because they were at home more. Like, there was obviously a big ramp up in that. And as much as that was what I was also doing at home, for some reason at the time, I just didn't put two and two together that it was going to cause that big a spike in YouTube, like, watching, I suppose. And so I think the Cold War was a little deceptive because it was actually a very, very strong year for viewership. Like, individual videos in Cold War went really big, and they actually went bigger than individual videos generally are going during this game. And that's something that I've seen across the industry. And I think that this is an observation that you guys might find quite interesting because I think that it's just a stat that not a lot of people ever really talk about. And that's looking at the individual standout bangers, like those videos that really blow up year to year, and seeing like, okay, yeah, if you actually look at the top 20 videos posted for Cold War Zombies at launch, like, what were they, right? And you look at the top 20 videos for this game, what have they been? And always, Easter egg guides are in there. Always, obviously, right? Everyone understands that that's a fulcrum. It's a pinnacle part of the community, so it makes total sense. But there's always other stuff that just gets up there, right? And so, for example, there's maybe a storyline theory sometimes that will end up doing over 1 million views and it goes really big. Other times there might be a certain type of side quest Easter egg that's just so interesting or the rewards are so good. Everyone is like, hell yeah, I want to do that. There's obviously the wonder weapon. That's always going to be up there. That's fine. But again, I kind of write those off. I'm sort of not talking about those here. I'm also talking about the other stuff, the stuff that in my head, in YouTuber parlance, is like browse-based content as opposed to search-based content. And for this game, my impression has been that the browse-based stuff has actually been a little bit more limited than other years. And that's not me saying that it's just my channel has struggled with that. I'm saying in general, if you look at all channels posting zombies content, we've got a couple of videos that have really taken off, but they've still felt kind of capped a little bit. And I think that that's really fascinating. And it makes me wonder whether it's possible with the size of zombies community that we have right now to, for example, post like a storyline theory that is so good that it gets 2 million views. And I think it might not be possible. And during Black Ops 3, you guys might recall, I posted that theory about Samantha's house. It was insane. That video crossed over 1 million views pretty fast. And I just don't know if there's nearly enough people in the community right now that care about the story to get a video to that kind of viewership. Like, I just don't think that the people are there, the eyeballs are there. And I'd love to be proven wrong about this, and I'm putting out storyline theories, right? So we'll see. Maybe I'll succeed and I'll strike gold and we'll find that audience that does care about that stuff. But so far, it's a little limited. And I think that this actually, in my view, kind of goes for the whole zombies community right now, where my impression of it is that we are more energized as a zombies community than we have been for 5 years, right? Inside the community, we are very energized right now, but I don't necessarily see the community size itself having been doubled thanks to Game Pass, for example. Like, I'm not seeing that currently, and my guess is that if that's what the numbers did actually say, if Game Pass had actually doubled the number of people playing Call of Duty, I think they would have put that out as a marketing statistic. I think they would have been like, hey guys, Game Pass is killing it. Just so you know, Game Pass is amazing. It's doing so well. Hey, can we please pump our Microsoft stock price by saying some really good news here? Like, I feel like they would have said something like that. You know what I mean? But they kind of haven't. There's been sales numbers and like, yeah, there's stuff that's out there, but it's not been, hey, we're the most successful zombies mode that we've ever had, which is something that they tried to do with Modern Warfare Zombies, saying that was the most successful Modern Warfare 3rd mode that Modern Warfare had ever had, which was such a weird, silly statistic. But yeah, that makes me think, okay, if they're not putting those sorts of stats out, does that mean that it's not necessarily failing? I don't want to sort of give you the opposite wrong impression, but does that mean that it's just sort of in step with expectation? Like, are we just kind of in line with performance? Maybe it's good performance, maybe it's even very good performance, but I don't think it's so crazy that like suddenly the zombies community is twice as large just because Game Pass exists, which honestly, pre-launch, I thought there was a chance of. I thought there was actually a chance that if they nailed launch in the right way, and they nailed the way that they were going to onboard all those Game Pass players, and they nailed the incentives to do stuff in zombies, to do Easter eggs, or to just try and get zombies rewards, right? If they nailed those systems, yeah, I could have seen the zombies community doubling. I could have seen that happening because there's a lot of people with Game Pass, like a huge amount, but it feels like that kind of hasn't happened. So in that regard, I don't want to say that the game is a failure by any means. It's just not been the unbelievable sort of standout breakout success that I think it could have been had they perfectly hit that nail on the head. I think that it was just good, but not perfect. There's also the factor to consider that the zombies mode is going to be something that Warzone players are going to want to spend some time in while they're waiting for Warzone to come out, right? And Warzone came out at Season 1 launch, which was a couple weeks into the game's life cycle. And so for the initial period, zombies is always going to get more love, right? And the zombies stats are always going to be boosted and maybe quite confusingly boosted, and perhaps, should an evil marketing person get their hands on them, quite deceptively boosted as well. Like, the idea that millions and millions of people that want to play Warzone might just jump into zombies to level weapons up, for example, so that they have them ready to go once Warzone kicks off, like, that's very reasonable, right? Like, that is a perfectly regular and sane assumption to make, and that's going to mean that the zombies numbers are huge compared to what they would have otherwise been, but that doesn't mean that those people have been converted into zombies players. They're just using zombies as a weapon leveling simulator. So there's also that aspect of things to try and sort of figure out and unpack, and it's difficult. It's definitely not easy, and it affects all of the data, all of the viewership data, all of the player data, etc. Like, I'm here wondering, okay, I've made a couple of videos over the last few weeks that have gone pretty big. Like, they've been between 500k and a mil. They've gone pretty damn big. Is that going to stop happening now that Season 1 is out and the Warzone people are increasingly going to start ignoring zombies? Because I think that that is their overall player behavior that they exhibit through the year, is that they prioritize Warzone and they don't grind zombies in the way that we grind zombies. I don't know. It remains to be seen, but it's an interesting one because it really does mean that all of the data has this kind of weird lens, and we'll see. It's going to remain to be seen in terms of live service and the ongoing updates that they do, and the fact that Treyarch, to be honest, has really dropped the ball, I think, in a lot of their updates because they keep breaking things with the updates, but then they also aren't communicating well, I think, about why those things are breaking or what they're doing to fix them. They're just sort of giving us change logs and that's it. I think that the Treyarch comms about zombies have been really lackluster. It's probably my biggest sort of criticism of this game so far, actually, is that they're just not communicating. They're just not doing it. They're giving us patch notes and that's it. And that's better than nothing, admittedly. But still, I think there's so much room for improvement there. But all that said, I don't want to be sounding like I'm completely negative about this by any means. I think Treyarch have really surprised a lot of us with just how solid this month has been. It has been solid. I think that that's fair to say on all fronts. There's been no major catastrophe that has meant that the legacy of this game is stained in some way. Not a single one. And I'll be honest with you guys, going into this game, I was very cynical about the servers. I was confident even that day one, there would be at least one server outage, because that's how games go these days, right? Like, name another franchise that has had a big online launch day one and not had even just 5 minutes of server downtime. Like, that's a very small list, right? And the fact that Call of Duty managed to achieve that somehow is really impressive to me. I'm actually very, very impressed. So in that regard, the servers have been fine for zombies. I'm not going to say that they've been trouble-free for everyone. I know some people have had issues, right? It's an always online game. That's going to happen. But it hasn't been so bad that the whole legacy of the game is tarnished, right? Similarly, have we been having blue screen issues? I don't think so. Certainly in my experience, I've not really had any problems like that at all. I've had maybe one crash total, perhaps. And to double up on that, like if we think back to Black Ops 3 and we think back to the problems we had during those boss fights, like remember on Gorod Krovi, that vent that took you into the boss fight and how it would just insta-kill you? There was just a death barrier in there. Do you remember how in Revelations, during the boss fight, during the Easter egg hunt, people had the exact same problem happen all over again where they were just death barrier going in? You remember that stuff? That's not happened at all yet for Black Ops 6. And like touch wood, it's absolutely something that I want them to keep that way. I don't want to tempt fate by any means, but that's positive. That really does deserve some praise. So that's exciting, right? That we've had a month that's overall been pretty good, I think. And those are words coming from the mouth of Activision's biggest hater. I'm not Activision's biggest hater. I'm just a firm, steady critic of when they mess up. That's all. I also think it's ironic that Activision had me blacklisted for so long, and here we are today. I just think that's funny. I think that is very funny. It just didn't work. The blacklisting just failed. I'm gonna be straight up. So, I mean, I have you guys to thank for that. I really do. So thank you once again, because otherwise things could have gone a very different way. They really could have done. Activision could have won. So like I alluded to a moment ago, lots of positives. At the same time though, there's room for improvement, right? There's absolutely room for improvement. And this is something that I'd love to hear from you guys about in the comment section. And I know YouTubers like me say a lot like, oh yeah, leave your thoughts in the comments down below. I actually need your thoughts this time. Like I actually do, okay? Because I'm putting together a big review of Black Ops 6 Zombies. And that review is going to be probably 2 hours long, something like that. Maybe 3 hours long, to be honest. Like, there's a lot of yapping that I need to get through. I mean, it might be shorter. Maybe I can find ways to be more concise in certain areas. But, like, we've got the small whiteboard over there. I think I'm going to need the big whiteboard as well. Like, it's going to be a big review. And as part of that, I really want to make sure I'm doing justice to all the different perspectives in the zombies community right now. If you guys remember, in the build-up to Modern Warfare 3 Zombies, I did one of my first whiteboard videos, actually, where I broke down the different sectors of the zombies community, right? And there were like the casual players, and then the hardcore players, and then the Warzone players, and then the Outbreak players, and I really sort of tried to divide it all out. And then I tried to rate the game and rank the game based on how those different cohorts of people saw zombies and what their perspectives were, right? Because I was really trying to make different people feel seen. And I want to do a similar thing this time around where I at least just read through like 1,000 or 2,000 comments on this video so I can get a really clear understanding of like, okay, actually the internet problem is a bigger thing than I realized because I've got really good internet. I just happen to have good internet. I mean, I'm a YouTuber, so that makes sense. Whereas maybe if you don't have as good internet, maybe it is really problematic and maybe the servers are really terrible, right? So I want to make sure that I'm kind of tapped in to your experience as best as I possibly can so I can speak for you guys and so I can raise your concerns to Treyarch and to Activision when I'm making not just these news videos, but then also that massive review. Like, I'm confident that my channel is of a size that that review will be watched by people at Treyarch, people at Activision, etc. Like, they will see, okay, is Milo gonna shit on us all over again? My intention will be to not do that, but it will be to provide a load of feedback to them that they can go, oh, yeah, actually, we didn't do a good enough job there. Let's fix it, right? And, oh, they liked this? Didn't realize that would be so popular. Let's do more of that. Like, that's ultimately the goal at the end of the day. And concurrent with that goal is the hope that I can help you guys decide if you're on the fence about buying the game or not, whether or not it's worthwhile for you to pick up, right? That's also part of the point of the review, is to make sure that the value proposition of the game is being interrogated enough and thoroughly enough, especially, so that you can make an informed decision, right? And I think a lot of you guys over the years have come to trust my judgment with these games because you know that I'm not going to just bootlick Activision the entire time. I'm actually going to tell you what I really think. And that's my intention for when I make that review. So please, this is my request. Any thoughts you have on any parts of the game, but especially if it's a part of the game that's not the super duper obvious stuff, right? So for example, I don't need you to tell me that vermin rounds are too long. I know. I'm experiencing that as well. Everybody is in the same boat on that one. Nobody thinks vermin rounds need to be longer. Like, we're aligned, right? But if there's a thing where it's like, you reckon you have a unique opinion that diverges a bit from the crowd, or there's something that you especially care about, or something that you're especially knowledgeable about. So maybe you're an audio engineer and you're like, I really love the sound mix, and they've actually used a really interesting technique here, which I think deserves more love, right? Or maybe you're a writer and you're like, I think that all these characters have great voice lines apart from this one character who doesn't feel like they have like a cohesive voice right now, and it feels like there's something missing there. Like, all of those sorts of more narrow and individual pieces of feedback will be so helpful in constructing a overall picture of community sentiment for Black Ops 6 right now. And I think both Treyarch, Activision, and the wider community would benefit from hearing those things presented in a way that I will try and do, which is organized and structured and constructive based on the whiteboard. Now, alongside all that, I think it's also important to talk about the wider Call of Duty reception to Black Ops 6. It's been quite interesting because I've seen a lot of Warzone people jump into Zombies and really enjoy it and go through the Zombies camo grind this year. And the camo grind kind of audience is one that I still don't know how to correctly characterize in my content, because I don't know what percentage of people are actually doing all the camo grinding. I don't know if it's more or less than the Easter egg hunters. And I know that sounds crazy, but the Easter egg hunters historically are like 5% of the player base. And I kind of feel like 5% of the player base could definitely be camo grinding, right? Like, that seems like a thing that a lot of people do, right? But then I'm thinking, is it more than that? Like, is it 10% of the player base going for Zombies camos? And if it is, that's crazy, because it sort of means that from the cynical Activision business development perspective, camo grinding is more important than Easter eggs, which is insane to say. I obviously don't feel that way, but for the business unit, they may do. And so, yeah, if you're a camo grinder, if you're a Warzone player, please give me your thoughts on the game in the comments down below. That would be really useful, because, yeah, I've seen a lot of people like JGod, right, who I spoke to on my podcast, JGod being like, yeah, I've been grinding through those camos, and I've been hustling and doing all that stuff. And I was like, you're an MP guy, and you're here in the trenches. And he had really well-developed, well-formed Zombies opinions. It was really cool to talk to him with that kind of outsider, but simultaneously insider perspective. It was great. And I've also seen a lot of Zombies love on other platforms. Like, the memes that I've been seeing about Zombies have been bigger this year than I think I've ever seen before, I think. Like, people using my Vanguard face and then my, like, Terminus boss fight reaction face as memes completely unrelated to Zombies has never happened before. Like, that is wild. There's never been that kind of breakout moment for a meme that I've been included in or part of. So that's been incredible to see. I've seen loads of like TikTokers blowing up. There's been people on IG Reels blowing up. I mean, I've had more Instagram Reels views this past month than I've had TikTok views. And they've been all Zombies posts. Like, if you add up all my views all together, I'm at like 120 million for the last month. So it's 60 mil from YouTube, and then it's 35 from Insta and 25 from TikTok. And that's crazy, because I would always have assumed that TikTok would be the biggest for that sort of content. Like, I would always have assumed that. And yet it's IG of all places, like the lifestyle cooking travel app. Like, what? Crazy. And it's frustrating, because I'm monetized on TikTok, and my TikToks make like no money, but still I'm monetized, right? I'm monetized on YouTube, and like YouTube shorts make like no money, but still I'm monetized. I can't get monetized on Insta. I don't know what it is. I just can't get into the bonuses program thing. If any of you guys work at Instagram or Meta or something and you can help me figure this out, please help, because like, I've had 35 million views on there and not a cent of it has been monetized. I've just been spitting free game for the masses, which is fine. I like doing that as well, but still, help. So yeah, these other platforms I've seen blowing up, and not just me, I'm talking about just in general. I've seen creators that I've never seen before having crazy TikTok success. And I'm like, bro, that is so cool that I feel like Zombies is breaching containment in its own way right now. And we've got kind of like old guard creators that are still around, but then we have these new generation people coming out of nowhere, making really cool content. And like, that's something that I wanted to spotlight a little bit when I had Stanley on the podcast pre-launch. I thought that was a really fun conversation, even if the resulting kind of reaction to some of that conversation was a little icky and not something that I was particularly happy with. But in general, like, small creators have been putting a shift in with this game, and I respect the hell out of it, and I love it, and I want to see more of it, man. I really do. And I'm still trying to figure out what my kind of attitude should be towards small creators and how I can kind of help big people up, right? Because I did it with Stanley and it kind of backfired a little bit. Granted, it was 99% positive, I think, but just the 1% vocal minority really left a sour taste. And so I've been trying to figure out, like, is there something cool I can do where I can get smaller creators involved somewhere or other and just kind of help, like, I don't know, the community. Does that even make sense? Like, I think that would be a nice thing. That would be a nice gesture, probably. But I'm not sure what that is just yet. Like, obviously, we've had things like Easter eggs for charity in the past. And I'm not saying I want to do an Easter eggs for charity by any means. Like, that was such a heroic amount of work that was done to make those happen. And I physically would die. I actually think I would die if I tried to add that to my plate now with all the other stuff I have going on. But I still think it would be fun to platform people in a new way or something. I don't know. I'm figuring it out, but until I figure that out, like, I've had a lot of people being like, oh, come on my podcast. Oh, like, jump on my radio show. I had an invite to go on the radio the other day. Like, I've had a bunch of different folks like that reaching out. Oh, like, oh, can we do an interview for an article, etc. And to basically every single one of those, I've had to just be like, I'm gonna be honest, right now, I'm so tunneled on my own stuff. Like, I've got to keep my house in order before I do the other things. And I'm just too busy. Like, there's just too much to do, man. I don't have time for it all. I need to clone myself like 5 times. So yeah, I'll figure it out eventually. But certainly right now, I'm like, okay, we can do some more podcasty stuff. But outside of that, I'm gonna have to keep pondering. But one thing I have got a little bit of an idea for, and I want to see if you guys think this would be cool, right? I basically couldn't sleep last night, which is essentially me every day. But last night was an especially long couldn't sleep. And I kind of dreamt up this cool way to raise some money for charity that I'd like to get your opinion on. Okay, so my kind of dreamt up idea is the following, and you'll see where we're going with this, because it kind of blends the, like, community coming together fun element of things with the idea of raising some money for charity, but just, like, done in a different way, like done in a Milo way, right? So what I was thinking is, what if we did a little competition where I said, like, okay, there's 7 days, and in this 7-day period, anybody can submit a design for a t-shirt. Okay, hear me out here, can submit a design for a t-shirt, and then at the end of that 7-day period, I would pick maybe, like, I don't know, maybe the top 10 people all get a little bit of money, and then the number 1 person gets, like, a bigger chunk of money, and, like, cool, okay, we've just done, like, a fun little sort of design contest, right? So that's the first stage of it. But that could then flow into, okay, at that point, we'd have, like, a top 3 designs, right? What if we did a thing where we did, like, a charity stream or something along those lines. And for those 3 designs, you could donate to the charity just by donating as normal, or you could donate by buying a shirt. So let's say a shirt is like $30, and let's say it costs, like, I don't know, $20 to produce or something. So you could buy a shirt, you could cover the production cost, and then the rest of the money could all go to charity. Like, I wouldn't be taking any profit off the top. There'd be no profit involved whatsoever. It would literally just be a charity donation, but that you get a shirt for. Like, wouldn't that be cool? I feel like that'd be a really cool thing to sort of commemorate the fact that you were part of this charity fundraise, and that shirt design could, like, never come back ever again. So it was exclusive Zombies merch. So we would get these sick designs together. You guys would receive these sick designs, and they'd be high quality stuff because it's the same, like, manufacturer I'm using for the no nonsense merch. So you'd have an actual keepsake from this moment in time, from Black Ops 6 launch, and a charity of our choosing would benefit. Like, obviously in the past, the Zombies community has done St. Jude's pretty frequently, but there's a bunch of charities that I'd love to raise money for. My aunt actually works for a charity in Lebanon, and I think that it would be so cool to raise money for her charity. I mean, we could even do it without me telling her, and then she might just wake up one day and we've got a lot of money to donate to them, and, like, that would make my heart so happy if we could do that. Not only because I'd be giving to charity, but also because I'd be giving to a charity that I know is gonna, like, really do meaningful stuff with that money, you know what I mean? Like, my aunt is there. Like, she'd be able to directly be like, Milo, you're putting money into, whether it's, like, getting these people food, or getting these people water, or these essential supplies, or housing, or, like, all these sorts of things, right? Like, that would be so cool. And then on top of that, I was thinking we could make it so that if there's a top 3 designs, right, it could be that there's different tiers. So let's say you donate the minimum amount, and the minimum amount is, like, I don't know, $10 or whatever, then cool, boom, you get yourself the lowest entry shirt, the like number 3 spot for the shirt, right? Or maybe even it's like $10 doesn't actually get you a shirt, but then if you donate like 20, you get a shirt. Maybe it's like that. Maybe it's like you can either just do a minimum small dono or you can do next level up, you get a shirt, but it's the number 3 shirt. But then it could be like, okay, if you donated like $40 to the charity, maybe then you get the second shirt, right? And then maybe it's like, okay, for the people that are going to be donating big bucks, if you donate $100 to the charity, right? Then that's maybe the only way you can get that third shirt. Like the number 1 design from that designs competition that we did where I paid people out. And that would be out of my own pocket for the record. Like I'd be paying for people to make the designs. Like I'd be paying those winners. And that would be like part of my charity contribution, I suppose, there would be whatever that would cost. But then yeah, the different tiers of donations would unlock different tiers of shirt design. Like to me, I feel like I was cooking when I thought this up last night, but also I am so willing to hear you guys out if you're like, actually, Milo, it's a terrible idea. Just like, don't do that. Like, I would not be offended. I'm just trying to think of cool ways to make people excited to give money to charity because it's not necessarily that enticing, I guess, sometimes, especially if you're a younger person. I think that the chances of you being like, oh yeah, I've got very little disposable income right now, but the little disposable income that I do have is all going to go to this charity donation. Like, I think that is not actually the path to raising the most money. I think the path to raising the most money is to look at where the biggest group of people is and then say, how do we make all of those people, as best we can, feel excited to participate here? And I think that the idea of like the merch incentive or whatever would be a really cool way to do that, right? But yeah, I mean, let me know if you think I'm crazy. I think I cooked there, but we'll see. Now, I mentioned at the start of the video that there's a new Citadel De Mo screenshot, right? I'll put it on screen right now. It has a caption alongside it that says, "This quiet Avalon village would never be the same." And I'm gonna be honest, I think that tweet wording is weird. And you can tell me all you like that I am seeing things that are not there and that this is pareidolia and this is schizophrenia or whatever. You can tell me whatever you like, but just hear me out here. Wouldn't it make more sense for that sentence to be, "This quiet Avalon village will never be the same"? Like, why is it would never be the same? And the fact that it's worded that way makes me think this might be a spoken voiceover from the trailer. And I think it might be like a story that is being told. And the story sort of goes like, and then this happened, and then this happened, and then this big bad evil monster broke out of the dungeon in the castle. And from that day, this quiet Avalon village would never be the same. Like, doesn't it have that vibe to you? So yeah, that was the first thing I noticed. The second thing I noticed is that there's this flag, but the flag is kind of weird because it looks like it's got a yellow patch on it. And we know that Avalon is set in France. Like, we know that it's in Europe and specifically it's in France. So what's the deal with this flag not looking French? Like, the French flag is blue, white, and red with white in the middle. But this flag doesn't really look like it's got white in the middle. And so I went to Twitter and I asked about this. I was like, can we ID the flag? Like, what's going on here? And I had suggestions for Andorra. And I also had suggestions for Romania, because those are both very, very similar flags. It's just that Andorra has a crest in the center, which you can't see here, so it's impossible to say which it would be. But Andorra is also an interesting choice because it's near Carcassonne, and Carcassonne is presumably where this map is based, presumably. So that's interesting to me. But there is also just the chance that it is just a French flag. I mean, I've seen other people say that it's a Czech flag, but I don't really feel like that one quite lines up. But yeah, I just felt like there was a weird sort of yellowy patch. It might be a white patch and I'm just seeing things again, but I thought it was worth talking about. And the body here on the ground also really reminds me of a book I read about, 2 months ago called Between Two Fires that I hated. I actually gave it 1 star out of 5, and I track all the books that I've read. I think I've read like 17 books this year, something like that. And this is the lowest rating I've given any book this year. I really hated the book. Sorry, it's by Christopher Buehlman. Sorry, Christopher. It just wasn't for me. But I was basically sold on the book in the first place by a guy that was like, yeah, it feels like Dark Souls, but with some like Lovecraftian stuff in there as well. And I was like, ooh, okay. And it's about this plague kind of thing in France and this knight kind of figure who travels across France, and he's kind of traveling with this angel kind of figure, and it's all very magical and fantastical and mysterious and French. And then as they go, it's not just a plague, but there's also these monsters as well. And I don't know, I saw that body on the ground and I was like, is that book just going to be what this map is? Basically, is it just going to be that? And if it is, maybe it'll be better as a game. Like, I'm open to the idea, so that's pretty exciting. But yeah, otherwise, it looks like Carcassonne. And I'm going to be honest, guys, I'm tempted to just go visit, because France is not that far away from the UK. And I reckon I could get to Carcassonne in like an afternoon. So should I just go? Like, again, I know I'm asking you guys to leave a lot of comments on this video, but just separate them out. Leave one by one as you go through. Should I go visit Citadel De Mo tomorrow? That's such a funny thought, but should I? Like, I've been so locked in on zombies content from my house this past month. It might be quite nice to stretch my legs. And what better a place to stretch my legs than inside the next map? Like, that's never been done before, right? I don't think anyone's ever gone to a zombies map before the zombies map has launched before and been like, oh, look, I'm here, right? That would be new. So should I? Or is that a silly, terrible idea? Let me know. Like, keep me on the right path here, chat. I'm relying on you guys keeping me on the up and up, you know? I don't want to be going off the rails too fast here. Maybe it's a bad idea. But yeah, I feel like that could be that could be fun. And even just the fact that I'm considering that, I think it's hopeful. And I think that this is something that I also was thinking just a few days ago, and it really is still ringing true. And that's that this is actually low-key the first time I have felt hopeful in zombies, meaningfully hopeful about zombies, in maybe about 5.5 years. I think Black Ops 4 reveal event was the peak of zombies hopefulness. That was so unbelievable. I cherish those memories so closely to my heart. They were amazing. And then the game came out, and I think from that point on, again, said with no malice towards Treyarch or anything, but I think from that point on, zombies has not given me hope. Like, I've seen the Black Ops 4 DLC season, and I saw what they did there, and that was fine. And then I saw the Cold War come back, and I was like, okay, this is intriguing, but I'm not necessarily crazy hopeful right now. I don't find myself drawn to do what I did literally today, which is to walk to Waterstones, the bookshop in the UK, and to sit there reading my Kindle, reading a book about Arthurian legend to prepare myself for the upcoming zombies map. I didn't feel that a single time during Cold War. And that isn't because Cold War was a bad game. That isn't because I'm hating on Cold War here. It's just because it didn't make me hopeful in this specific way. It didn't capture the old magic for me. It captured some magic, but not the old magic. Whereas with Black Ops 6, I kind of feel like there's a little sprinkle. Just a little sprinkle of it. It's not exactly the same as it was in the past. There's a lot of new stuff here. There's a lot of things that I'm like, well, they'll never be able to do that these days because Activision this and Call of Duty that and blah, blah, blah. So there's blockers, there's barriers, etc. But the sentiment that I'm feeling is one of, wow, I think we are in for a year where I might actually care about the story, which we didn't have during Cold War. The gameplay was pretty solid in Cold War, but story, weak. I think it was weak. But I might actually care about the story this year in a more significant way than I have in the past. And I also, to be honest, think we might get some top 5 maps of all time. I think that there's potential for that. I don't want to jump the gun, but the DLC season could go that crazy if they keep going on the trajectory that they're on right now. And that's so exciting. So it feels wonderful to be hopeful about this game right now. Wonderful to be hopeful as a zombies fan. Like, we've been so crushed over the years. And it's nice to not feel that way right now. There's just no reason to feel that way right now. It's amazing. So I'm happy. I'm in a really happy place. I really hope you guys are as well. And please, I implore you, leave me as many comments as you can on this video. And thank you for your support, making this a record-breaking month for me in all areas. It's something that I really cherish very deeply. Very, very deeply. So thank you. I'll see you next time.